Okie dokie. I think we may be just ready. Welcome, guys, to the Notion webinar this week. It is all about getting holiday ready. This is an opportunity for you to get planning for the upcoming Christmas or holidays that you have planned, and is an opportunity for you to look at a few of the exciting ways that you can use Notion for just that. Now, it is going to be quite an exciting webinar, I think. We're going to be touching on a few different ways that you can use Notion. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the calendar. We're also going to be looking at making sure that you've got all your checklists ready. And we're actually going to mention a really good Notion template that has just become available for the holiday season, making sure that you're sort of planning in advance. Just saw this one on Twitter, and we can get sort of digging into how to utilize that. And we're also going to show you about how the web clipper can be useful for being able to save some present ideas into a database. And then we're going to show you how you can potentially connect up your calendar with some of those present ideas, which I think is good fun. So if you're watching this in advance, then you can skip to roughly about the 15-minute mark. We spend the first 15 minutes nattering, talking about a few of the exciting conversations that Notion is having at the moment, and taking any questions that you guys have. So I'm really excited. Obviously, this is a good opportunity to get ready for Christmas. My first question is probably, is anybody actually ready for Christmas? Because a lot of people find it, some people are really organized and like ready for Christmas, but others are super late. And I used to be one of those people. I used to be the 23rd of December sort of person. And others are maybe the sort of 2nd or 3rd of December. Luckily, my wife is really good at sort of making sure that we're organized with presents in advance. So that's really, really helpful, which is good. So I'm seeing a few comments coming in. Matthew said it's perfect timing. Yeah, we got another one for the next 2 weeks of Christmas, and then we're going to take the Christmas break off, and we'll be back with some new ones. We're going to talk about resolutions in next year, which is going to be pretty cool, and how you can use Notion to plan your New Year's resolutions. Toma says hi. Hi, Toma. Matthew says, not even close. Full panic mode right here, right now. I agree with you. The thing is, hopefully this feature will actually help you to get planning. Peter, it's great to have you. I just saw your comment, and you've been here for 2 weeks in a row, which is awesome. Feel free to introduce yourself. If you have any Notion specific questions, we tend to answer them now. So feel free to pop them in the chat. And then we'll start roughly at 3 o'clock. I've got my cup of tea. So like every week, I can slowly sip this and answer any Notion specific questions that you may have. But again, just to run over, I'm looking at the sort of agenda we got today. So specifically what we're focusing on the calendar database is when key events. So sort of planning out when family arrive, what's going to happen specific times. And some people like that sort of proper advance notice. And even we can sort of plan in when you're actually going to have sort of your town, you're going to be in town to buy the presents, which might be useful. Well, they're going to actually use one of Notion's templates to create a checklist. This was actually created using, I believe, a list database. And also they have a secondary view, which is a board database. And it's exactly the sort of idea that I had for sort of what I was going to create from scratch. So maybe we'll do it from scratch. Maybe we'll use the Notion template alongside it. And then we're going to talk about how you could potentially print or export the calendar. Some families or some couples, even individuals like to be able to see their calendar on maybe the fridge or something like that. So we're going to show you how to export that to PDF and how that looks and whether that's something that you may want to do. Then we're going to dive into the present side of stuff. So we're going to talk about clipping web links, creating databases, and how to begin collecting all of that, because you may not have a bang on idea of exactly what you want to give yet. And that's absolutely fine. and this is totally natural. So we're going to show you how to start clipping to a gallery database and then to begin clipping to a board, which will become the checklist. So then we're also going to show you, hopefully by the end of this video, how to connect the presents with the calendar using a roll-up relation. So Sam puts, are you using Todoist and Notion still, or just Notion? That's a really good question, Sam. I am still using Todoist and Notion. I feel like they're quite separate at the moment. So the way that I'm using Todoist is more for my next 30 days of actionable tasks. Then I'm using Notion as a way to sort of holistically plan. So I've recently actually sort of cleaned it up a little. I am actually using it as a way to have my projects. So my sort of high level projects and goals for the year, things that I need to be honing in on, focusing on, like as a way to every single week sort of align my Todoist to that as a wiki. So in the same way I'm using it right now for like planning finance, house stuff, future baby stuff. And then I'm using it as only recently, like a little bit of a tracking of habits. And this is totally new. So whether that, you know, I'll have to give myself an experimental time with that. But I'm actually liking the way that I could potentially use it to track good and bad habits. Maybe I will do a live version of my Notion setup. That could be quite cool. But let's see. I mean, if that's something you guys want to see live, I don't know. Probably a little bit, could be a little bit messy for the post edit. So Peter puts, realistically, I don't believe Notion is or will be a spreadsheet killer. Thoughts? That's a good question, Peter. I think a lot of people think it's going to be a spreadsheet killer in the fact that it does a table, but I think it's not really in that category. If I said maybe Google Sheets versus Notion, a little bit far off to each other, or like Microsoft Excel versus Notion, I'd say that it's more in the category of, I'm going to say like more Evernote than it is Google Sheets, in the sense that it's sort of like it does Sheets well, but it doesn't do, like, it doesn't like really compare. It's much better at docs than it is, for example, at Sheets. But I do agree it doesn't have that good Excel ability. Although if you shape your like tables differently, your table databases differently, I think you'll have much better success with them than necessarily say with Excel. But again, it really depends on what sort of information you're putting in that'll answer that question. But yeah, I sort of put it in the category of modular apps, which is sort of now the key focus for Notion. So Sam puts, that was a really crap answer. Sam puts, most certainly would like to see. Oh, that's good. That's regarding the Notion tour. I use TickTick, but it kind of sucks for long-term planning. Yeah, I think that's why I decide not to use Todoist for long-term planning. I feel like it's really good at sort of a checklist of things you need to do in the days, those 30 days of actionable tasks. But when it comes to holistically planning, I'm really big on Notion right now. Maybe I can give you a little bit of a glimpse. We've got 6 minutes, so I'm sure it wouldn't be wrong to share you around my own sort of recently put together Notion. Let me just sort of make a new Notion page. Yep, there we go. So if I work out how to share the page with you guys, there we go. Okay, so this is the agenda for today, but we're going to go over to my area. So this, oh, is it actually showing? Is it showing the right one? Resume share. There we go. Can you see it now, guys? Attempt number 2. All right, so here we go. This is the sort of new layout, and I probably won't share much more than this, but I've called it my planner, and I feel like that's a better word for it for myself at the moment. But I said I have projects, wiki, and habits, and projects is here. So this is my new project area. I'm really eager to sort of like work on this stuff in the next couple of months. So December, I have sort of 3 main projects. And for example, like we're working on a module release for Notion. of the Notion course, and you can see that I've got the month there, the priority, what quarter it's part of, how much we're progressing, which I think should be about 15% now, and what status it is. And I've got these cool views here, so I can group by status, and I can see, okay, this project's active. I can group by type, so whether they're related to courses or not, and even by priority. So I can be like, okay, I have a slow day, so I can get maybe rid of a few of these. So yeah, that's my sort of latest big changes. Maybe I can do a video on that for you guys. But as you can imagine, like, it really depends on whether you want to see it or not. Let me know whether you do, because I'll probably film it before Christmas, but squeeze it in, as you can imagine. So for those who are joining, we're only about 4 minutes from starting. We will be covering how to really take advantage of the calendar, web clipping, and also just taking advantage of being able to plan your Christmas ahead of time. This might become useful for many of you who are planning the holiday season. Yodi, welcome back. Third time of seeing you in these regular now, which is great. Thank you. Hopefully this one helps you. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Levy. Hello. How to know in advance if Todoist would be compatible with a home services CRM schedule software like Jobber or Markate? Secondly, can Todoist be integrated with the project management software? I'm not sure on the home services CRM. If you use something like Zapier, that's how you pronounce it, then that might be a really suitable one for you. But see whether there are these integrations, because it really depends on whether Jobber or Markate has them. And you also mentioned, can Todoist be integrated with the project management software? It depends on which one. Again, you may have to look into the Zapier integrations, whether it connects with things like Asana, and see whether that's suitable for you. But of course, it's really dependent. So feel free to email me. Maybe I can take a look for you and see whether they're connected. Peter, have you any info you can share on just the possible Notion API and its eventual release? And will non-programmers users be able to utilize it in a meaningful way? That's a really good question. I'm not an API expert, and I pretty much just cover the news when it comes out. So I don't know anything as of now that will be able to be able to help with that. But I'm really excited for the API, because that would be cool if like from my own speculation, to be able to like sign in and then be able to see be able to connect it with, say, Fitbit. I don't have a Fitbit, but if I had one, or be able to connect it with other sort of tools that I'm using, especially Google Calendar. That would be amazing, particularly to be able to plan a sort of calendar inside of Notion. Other apps that have input, maybe your bank, that would be quite cool, like having a way to pre-populate your expenses and produce data on your expenses. That would be useful. So I'm looking at more in a sort of a input coming in and seeing whether that could be useful. Okay, guys, we're about a minute away from, or maybe in 30 seconds away from starting. So I think it's cool if we get things rolling. So I'm just going to go ahead and share the page that we'll be using today. So hopefully you can see it in front of you. Drum roll if you can see it. Okay, brilliant. So welcome to this Notion webinar. Thank you very much, guys, for some of your questions in advance. Thank you, obviously, to those who are tuning in. If you're watching this in a replay, that's absolutely awesome. So we're going to be talking about how to sort of make a little holiday planner for the upcoming season. Now, there's obviously a lot of ways that you can do this. We're actually going to mention a template that Notion has created. And we're going to show you some exciting ways to get organized, because a lot of people, I can imagine, like, you may be sat at home going, I do actually need to genuinely get ready for Christmas. How do I go about doing that? Notion could be the tool for that. If you already use it, it might be a lot easier in terms of being able to sort of plan out what you already know. But we're going to start with a calendar. So we're going to go ahead and create a new page, and we're going to actually create a full page calendar using the selection down here. So let's go ahead and add an icon. Let's add a calendar icon because that might be a nice one to start out. So you can just search them per normal, and then you could say holidays planner or holidays calendar, let's call that. So as you can see, it obviously naturally points towards a month you've been on. And if you wanted to, you already had a calendar, you could potentially connect it up in properties with an existing calendar. And maybe, for example, you already have a calendar. Maybe you could just use the tags feature to tag everything new with holidays as a title, and just simply go to filter and go to tags that contains holiday, of course. And that would be a good way to filter out any other sort of events so that you can really focus in on the holiday. But as you can imagine, Christmas is around the corner. Whatever holiday you celebrate around the world, it's organizing it and making it happen. So as you can imagine, some people's sort of parents might be arriving or family members might be arriving to the house a little bit early. Let's say it's the 20th. Actually, let's say it's the 21st, because I'm guessing that it's probably quite a busy period. So we're actually going to have and type in car here. So we can get a car, maybe a taxi, and say family arrives home. So I can also tag this with whether it's relevant to something. So for example, I could say it's a family related item. So that's a really simple way of doing it. Obviously, they could be arriving over 2 days, and that could be a good way to get you started. Now, if I wanted to go property, I can actually add the dates that it's crossing. So that sort of bulks it out a little, makes it a little bit bigger. So I've got the family arriving here. And obviously, I've got Christmas Eve. So I may want to fill in the major dates. At the moment, they don't have an integration. So you just have to add this manually. But I could say this is an event. And I could also put this one as Christmas Day and begin to populate this. So I'll put Santa, perfect. And then I could even put when the family are returning, and maybe they're heading back on the Sunday. So family heading home. And I could maybe put train, get them going back on the train. I don't know. So this is sort of like the bulk of maybe your key events, like you've got the family arriving, Christmas Day, and everyone going home. But there's, I guess, a period here when you've maybe got a few weekends free, or maybe you don't. But you might actually want to start planning presents and things like that. So we're going to actually add on the 14th, we're going to add a trip to town for presents. So I'm going to put here, I'm going to tag it with presents, and I'm going to make it yellow. Now, the one thing that you can do with the different types of tags that you've got is actually use, this is something that someone actually helped me in the comments with, is actually add an emoji to it really simply. So that sort of brightens it up a little. You can do this with, say, your family ones, for example. If I go to edit and I maybe get the family one up. And if you're using Mac, then you can, so if I just choose one of the family options, if you're doing that with Mac, someone amazing told me in the comments it's Control, Command, and Space. I didn't even know that. And let's do that one final one for events. So let's choose I don't know what an event looks like, but so I could say that's an event, the ticket. You need a ticket to arrive to this family Christmas. But you can see how much it brings sort of everything up and helps it sort of become really accessible. So I may obviously want to have 2 town trips, and I might want to do sort of 2 batches. So what I'm going to do is actually use a duplicate feature and drag this one up here. And then I'm going to get rid of the copy of and have trip 1. And trip 2. Perfect. So what I am actually going to do is I'm going to begin obviously creating my checklist, and we'll come back to the calendar, don't worry. But obviously I need to make sort of an aim for the sort of planner. So I'm going to sort of stop and pause and find the amazing database that I saw that Notion produced, that they posted on Twitter. So if you want to find this one, you just have to go to twitter.com/notion.so, and you'll be able to find the template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just showcase the Twitter page that they have so that you can see it. Drum roll. There we go. So there's the tweet that they had, and you can see there that it's a great way to see the shopping list and own filters. So here it is. Let me just zoom in because it's massively zoomed out. Maybe that's all the way in. So you can see here that they've got two core lists. One is a list view, which is really easy to use, and one is a wished list per person. So it's a board view that allows you to sort of be able to move stuff across. But what I need to do, and if you don't know this already, all you have to do is duplicate this into a workspace. And if I go ahead and duplicate it into Francesco's workspace, holiday gifts will appear. Actually, I've been a real dope, and I need to actually copy it into Keep Productive's workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that into Keep Productive. So you can add it to multiple workspaces, whichever is suitable for you. Before we move on to that, I just wanted to check whether you guys had any specific questions, because I don't want any of this sort of live chat to go unchecked. I want to make sure that you guys are getting any questions answered. So Levy puts, thanks, that's awesome. Torren, A up, just made it. That's awesome to have you again, third week in a row. So to Sif put, I prefer using Google Keep for quick to-dos and Notion for its databases. That's a good way to sort of use the two applications. And Tara means at Notion at HQ. Yes, that's what I meant. If you go to at Notion HQ, you can find all the details there. So let's go back to this holiday gifts, but actually let's get it up on the version that we've been using for the holiday planner. So can you see it? You should be able to now. It should have appeared inside of this private area here. Now, that's great with the duplication, is it will actually copy it to there. But in this case, I'm just going to drag it over to the workspace that we've got here and close the sidebar. So let's start using their template gallery. And we'll make sure to actually, whilst I'm on the sort of yabbering on to you guys, I'll actually post it inside of the YouTube chat. So you guys can actually go and implement it. Now, I'm posting the tweet, so feel free to go to the tweet and use the link and you'll be able to get it pretty fast. So here we are. Let's actually go ahead and clear this. And the main reason is because I want sort of everything nice and clean. And as you can see here, you can group it by person. In this case, I'm actually gonna delete these people, and these are the lovely team members of Notion. Sorry guys, you're going. But naturally, at the same time, like I don't have any family members on Notion, so that's a sort of bit of a shame. So let's start using this shopping list. And I have a few ideas. Obviously, I've got a few family members, so I'm going to say I'm going to buy Tonya a tea set from John Lewis, and we'll come back to sort of before you've had ideas, so that you're sort of advanced planning in a moment. So once I'm adding a tea set, I can put the logo for tea, the icon for tea. But you can see that in this actual example, you've got an assigned to person property, which you might not want to use because for example, if I'm like telling Alice, like, I might be actually notifying her what she's got, and she doesn't want to see that because, that's not good. She doesn't want to see her own present ideas. So I'm going to delete that. And I'm also going to put for who or who question mark. And I'm actually going to add this as a multi-select and bring it up here. So this might be more suitable. So I could say this is for Antonia, my sister. And I could say the price is about £30. In this case, it's in dollars. So I'm going to change it to pounds. And there's two checkboxes, which I really like that you can use. The purchased one and the wrapped one. If you wanted a third one, that could be quite cool. You could have you could have a checkbox for under the tree. Is it actually under the tree? Ready, prepared, or maybe you wanted given, because sometimes you may actually forget to give it to the person. So you can leave a few bookmarks and notes. For example, like let's say you wanted to buy it from the website. Maybe you wanted to make sure that you actually had that link. So I'll be like, copy this link, come back here and paste it and create a bookmark. So there we go. You can see that the bookmark should be appearing. There we go. It's a 15-piece toy China set. Well, my sister's quite small, so I'm gonna say that's her present sorted. But what's quite cool is when I come out of it, I can see tea set from John Lewis, £30. And what I can do is go over to this board view, which is connected to it. And I can see Antonia, which is my sister, and who this is assigned to. So this is a wish list by person. Okay, I've totally missed the point of this, guys. This is embarrassing. Let me just change this. So I could say this is actually per person, who this is for. But if I wanted to, I get it now. If you wanted to influence people's decisions around who you like, what they you want for Christmas. For example, this wish list. I could, for example, have I could basically if I group by, let me just add a new property, person, like they had before, like I went in blinking ruined, go person and assign it to, for example, I'll create a new card and click into it. And for example, I could say Alice, and I could say, can you get me a T-Rex outfit? I don't know. I'm really not even sure what I want. So I could say, is there a T-Rex or a dinosaur? I don't think there is. So I'll just put one of these chaps. So that could be £20. And the idea behind this is you can have some sort of wish list. So you can sort of influence people on the decisions. So that's a good way in doing that. But of course, that's the way it was intended. So I've just totally changed that database. So you can have it per person. For example, Antonia here, hers is planned, and you could start doing it. So it could be like, use the board to actually start adding different columns or groups. And you could say, all of your family members, Becca, Sophia, Dad, and I could start adding some ideas below here so that I could filter them down. And that could be a good way to get started. But primarily, the shopping list is quite helpful because you can actually see anything that isn't purchased yet. And that's just a simple filter with purchased is unchecked. You could even do a wrapping list if you wanted to. For example, if you went over to here, created a new view, went down to list and went wrapping to do. And I went ahead and add the filter of wrapped is unchecked. So you can go and obviously do this for whatever sort of stage you are at inside of your sort of holiday giftings. So that's quite funny. I totally ruined that, but you can copy that. And that's something that you can actually find a lot of value from. So yeah, I'm just going to go back to a few questions that you guys might be having. Taran puts, I hope your sister isn't watching. I hope she's not either. This is actually, yeah, she wouldn't get a tea set anyway. Peter, is it feasible or recommended to have a master calendar set up, much as like Marie Poulin's one has a master task database and then link and filtered the master calendar in or other pages to suit specific requirements? Yes, if you wanted, you could have, for example, a task management or a master calendar to do this, but this is more for people maybe who want to sort of get started, get the ball rolling. So this might be more suitable for sort of beginners that are looking to sort of get started with utilizing Notion. So let's go back to the planner view. Let's find out where I can actually share it. It's sort of disappeared. There we go. Let's go back to what we were creating just before. So as you can imagine, you may have a few ideas for the holiday gifts, you may not. So this could be a good way in actually just sort of pooling a few concepts that you have. So you could actually say present ideas and maybe you want to add Santa's face there because you've already used the emoji for present previously. And you can add a gallery database. So if I get rid of the details there, I add a properties, make sure the card content is showing. And I also put them as small. And I maybe add a tag. And that's all I need for the moment. So this could be a good base for you to actually start clipping stuff from the web. So let's get a few ideas. Let's start adding some and tallying it up. So if I stop and if I go over to the old internet, maybe I could just, it feels like it could be a promo for John Lewis, but I don't know why I would buy everything from John Lewis. John Lewis's UK store. But let's say I'm on johnlewis.com for an example, and I am thinking of a few present ideas. I know well, some of my family I know my wife likes diffusers, so I could get her a diffuser. These look very expensive, but maybe for the sake of this sort of demonstration, I really like this Winter Spice Copper reed diffuser. This is slowly turning out into a webinar about how, you know, you could potentially sort of, like, you want to see my buying habits are here. So if I go to the workspace that I've been sort of associated to, it's Keep Productive. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to search for this one I've just created. So it might be, I think I typed, what did I title it? Present Ideas. So if I type in Present Ideas, there we go. The present ideas pop up here. So I'm going to pick a few things and I'm going to save them. And we're going to actually sort of like begin to sort of organize this. And this could be maybe a good way if you don't have some ideas sort of planned. So I've heard that maybe my one of my family members, I don't know, Alex likes, actually, I don't know whether he likes it, but I'm going to press save on this. So you can see how simple it is if you're actually sort of and you're like, let me just start dumping stuff inside of here using the web clipper. Maybe I need to get some decorations going. I don't know why people buy decorations for Christmas presents, because I guess it's Christmas itself on the day. But let's say this ceramic house looks lovely. You know, LEDs, 10 LEDs in there. And I clip that one, saved. And maybe I'll go over to women section and I choose some nice, this could be filled with shoes. I know my sister likes shoes. So maybe I could be like, actually this purse looks lovely. Looks like a bestseller. This is really how you could do it, guys. Like you literally start dumping stuff in from different sites. And it could be multiple stuff. So I could be like, you know, sweaters. This sweater looks fantastic. It's not even previewed, but it looks great. And I could save that there. So let's just stop this and go back to the actual board that we have. So drum roll. If you can see, some of them have started to come in. And the one thing that you have to wait a little bit of time for them to be sent over to Notion. And naturally just give it a few minutes. If you were doing that in bulk, maybe just give it like 2 minutes and they should all be up. And if you feel like you can refresh the page. So there we go. I've got a few ideas. And what I could start doing is I could then go in and obviously see the details, you know, pictures, some of the other images from the site, some useful links. But what I might want to do is go over to properties and add a property of person, or 4 actually, but let's just keep it at 4, and a multi-select. Let's make this one off. So I could actually go through here and be like, oh, these ones are all for Becca. There we go, done. And this one's is edit properties for Alex. And this one is, actually, this one's for Becca again, but I will change 2 of these to maybe Antonia. So they could be, you could have multiple people. Yeah, you could have multiple people. So you get the idea. You could just start dumping stuff and then be able to, like, for example, like if you're like looking for a certain person, the chances are they're going to be sort of close to each other. So all you'd have to do is select, press edit property, go to 4, and then choose the person it's for, and naturally they'll be added to the property. So that's really, really helpful. So the other way that you could do it is you could go ahead and select a board one, and you could type in, call this one per person, create a board, and group by 4. Done. I've got a few ideas there for a few people. So I can, for example, go in and add more details. And if I really wanted to follow a similar structure to that other checkbox one, I could be like, make a checkbox and call this one purchased. And I could say wrapped and add another checkbox. And let's say I narrowed it down and said, you know what? I don't like this one. I don't like this one. I think I should swap. Oh yeah, they're the same thing. And that should go to Antonia, and maybe Becca just wants that. So these are my sort of core presents, and I'm like, okay, that's brilliant. I think I've got the presents list. I can then create a shopping list using a list, create that. And as you can see, they sort of all appear, but I can go to properties and sort of go to purchased, the ones that are unchecked. Now, maybe it's like the ones that have 4, and you may actually want to, the ones that are not empty. So there we go. So all I've done there is done purchased is unchecked, and 4, so that's the person who's getting it, is empty. So that, for example, when I'm in this area, so I go to per person, and I, for example, assign the lights to Alex. If I go back to the shopping list, it should appear as something to buy. So you get the idea. This could help your online shopping a lot further. And if you wanted to, you could even have the URL included there of where it's from, the person it's for. And if you wanted to add an additional property, you could add the price. So you could even get the price there and have that sort of on tap. So I could say this cashmere thing is like £95. So I could say £95 and add it to, you know, it could be pound, euro, dollar, whatever you have. And you can see there that appears there. So if you were being really like, if you were like, how much money am I going to spend this year? You could create a table of prices. So if I go to prices, then what I could do is I could see the sum of all of that. So I know that that's going to be at £10. That's going to be £55. That's going to be, I think they're £49. And that was £24. So as you can see here, this is the expense of the shopping list. It's going to cost me. But remember that this isn't assigned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to 4 contains, actually is not empty. And you can see that this price is revised. So I've got £223 that is coming out. So if you wanted to get the price, you could, and you can even remove, you can even hide them. There we go, hide all of these to make it look a little bit neater inside of a table. So if that's something that you wanted to do, that is a useful way to sort of really take advantage of this. But the real magic, I'd say, is inside of this gallery view, because 99% of the time people struggle with being able to sort of organize presents, is actually be able to, you know, coordinate what's happening, and actually having a sort of a place to bung all of that information might actually help you. So I highly recommend using that sort of gallery technique. So let's come to the final part of this. Let's show you what you could do when it comes to processing all of that information. So as we said, we've got the holiday planner, we've got the calendar, we've got the gifts. So in this case, I'm actually going to get rid of this gifts. You can use the gifting one. It's absolutely a great template recommendation, and I'll have included it in the live chat, so you can actually get that one. But the holiday planner, you know, of course, you've got this holiday planner. You may want to actually start, you know, be able to see when you make that trip to town, you know, what actually you're going to be making sure that you're getting. So I'm just going to add an emoji there for presents, and I'm going to add a new property type, but I'm going to actually add a relation to present ideas. If it comes up, there we go. Present ideas, create relation. So here you can see that I've got, you know, sort of an idea of some of the presents that I've got coming up. So what I can do is be like, actually, I'm going to go and buy in John Lewis, the Google Home, the Winter Spice Copper thing, and the LED lights this session. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the other one, and I'm going to say, I'm going to pick up the cashmere jumper and the other thing that I had in mind. So if you, for example, very simply opened up, so I could say shopping list, you can very simply open that up and be like, oh, okay, what was I getting in town today? And be like, oh, fantastic. Brilliant. I can see all the details that I want. And you can even go further and create a roll up. So for example, you can create, select the relation that you've already got in that table, shopping list, and you can choose a property out of it. So you can say the price of it, for example, and you could use the sum of that price. So in that case, it's going to be an expensive little trip for you, £128 on those 3 items. So just prepare yourself. But you could even do like, for example, like whether they've been wrapped or purchased, I don't know, or even other details. So what person you're buying for. So that could be a good way to actually say, who am I buying for? Who for? And that relation, you can basically go into town and be like, okay, I'm literally buying for everyone today. And you could do the same for that one. And that obviously roll up comes up already for whatever you create. So then you can just do sort of one big sort of bash over that sort of holiday period. And now maybe you're actually like ready. You're ready for like being able to sort of maybe export this sort of information. So what you can do is you can go to the right hand corner, go ahead and turn this into a PDF. And what I recommend is maybe an A3 because you may want to see this as a big thing for your family. You could export it. It takes a few moments to export. And what we're actually going to do is show you what it looks like once it's exported. It's fairly, like, it's a fairly big file. I'm going to call it holiday calendar for this example. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I share it with you guys. So here we go. You should be able to see here is what it looks like. I mean, the issue there is it comes through as a preview for the table. So I'm actually not sure how to do that, but this might be not a good view for you because, you know, for example, if you're going to do that trip to town and you've just basically shown someone what presents they're getting and who's it for, then that might be a little bit painful. But if it is something you want to share with yourself, this could be a really neat way. So for example, you can actually go and circle this. You can be like, right, okay, I've got this trip for town coming up. This is absolutely perfect. So let me show you, let me see if I can fix that problem with you as I'm with you here. Maybe it just needs to be sorted. So by date is ascending, or let's go ascending. I've got the DHL man at the door, probably dropping a present off. I'm going to leave the podcast, the webinar for a second and come back. Do apologize, but hopefully it's a good one. Hello. Hello. All right. Sorry. Thank you very much. Cheers. Of course, guys, that was perfectly timed because a Christmas present arrived. So this method works and you can definitely utilize it to help organize stuff. I'm so sorry about that. You know, like when you're working at home, the worst thing is like missing something in the post and having somebody calls you, like you can't leave a letter on the door saying, you know, for example, it's not, you know, I'm going to miss this one. So let's just check the list of things that I wanted to cover with you guys today. Key events, creating checklists using the web clipper. We did all that. Also gallery and boards and connecting presents in calendar. So this, let me just go back to this. Let's just overview what we have done today. Share. You can see here that we've done a range of different things. We've created a checklist for you when you're in town, to be able to go into town and buy all the stuff, or even this could be a to-do list for when you're at home to be able to organize stuff and basically who and what presents you're actually getting. And also, you know, if you're doing multiple trips, you can actually see as well all of the sort of family key stuff. But the other sort of magical thing that you can do is actually begin to plan, you know, food and what you're actually going to be needing to get for the food. So for example, if you have one here, you could be like food shopping list, and I can add an icon. Is there a turkey icon? There we go. A lot of people have turkey for Christmas. And let's just say this is a errand. So let's add an emoji here. So I'm going to add the shopping basket emoji and call this one errand. So obviously the shopping list is sort of irrelevant here. If you wanted to, you could add a specific shopping list for that, but you could go and create sort of more items here, but I'm going to have to keep it really dead simple and start adding things like that. So I could say a turkey for 4 people, stuffing for 4 people. Maybe I don't need to add the 4 people part of it. And I could say carrots, broccoli, etc., etc. So you get the idea. I have a food shopping list that I can add here, and maybe I can start checking them off as I go through. And I can begin to sort of plan that way. So you can add additional things to this, and the calendar has been really, really helpful. And for example, if you have specific people arriving at a certain time, so for example, you wanted to be able to add a date to this one, you certainly can. So I'm going to remove the end date from that and add a reminder for 2 days before that this person is going to arrive at the late hour of 7 p.m. Very late. And as you can see there, that comes up and you'll get a reminder when that obviously is happening 2 days before. So when the food shopping list comes, you get a reminder that this is happening. And the same with presents. And if you're doing a sort of a week-long present errands, then that's something you can move across. So guys, that was the webinar for this week. I am taking any questions whilst we wrap up. Again, I do apologize for jumping downstairs and getting the Christmas present that comes to the door. Obviously, that was timed and planned. So, you know, it's not going to be something that, you know, I will do often. But guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat now. The only other thing I had to mention was that we have a wicked deal on the course right now. So if I post it in the chat, we have a wicked deal on the Notion course that ends today. So if you did want to check it out, you most certainly can, which is great. So I'll just have a little look. Torrin puts, this is useful for other things too, not just buying presents. So yeah, I mean, that could be a really useful way to sort of plan, you know, shopping lists and things like that. If you had like a connected things to your calendar. Again, Peter, it comes on to the sort of master task list, master calendar thing. Yodi puts, how did you do the emoji thing in the tag? Is that a Mac thing? It is, but you can do that on Windows, I think. So I've just done it using Control Command Space. This is something that someone recommended to me on in the comments actually. But anyway, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in now. We'll sort of wrap up in about a minute or two. But naturally, it's been a pleasure sort of talking to you guys today. We have a question. Rick W. One question, can you insert or integrate some articles, websites, video clippings, or other media into the holiday planner calendar in Notion? You most certainly can. However, you will have to do that inside of the page view. Inside of the page view, you can add, for example, details like web bookmarks, which I demonstrated earlier, videos of maybe reviews that you've seen. And the real cool thing is if you took advantage of the templates ability. You could create a new template for researching about your product, which could be quite useful. So that might be a way that you could sort of take that calendar view. You could even use a list view for that if you're specifically finding it for a specific person in your family. Something that we touched on earlier, the 4, if you're doing research on a specific thing, you could clip a bunch of things that, like, for example, like you could have 15 different like to-do lists, 15 different calendar, physical calendars, like that you, or notebooks that you want to buy, like your sister, and you could just do your research on them and adding all the sort of reviews that you've seen, and then actually narrow down your buying decision. Okay, guys, a big thank you for stopping by today. Again, take advantage of the Notion course deal, but it's been a pleasure sort of teaching you guys today. I thank you for those who were kind enough to wait around for when I had to pick up the Christmas present. Again, that's one of the benefits to working from home. But guys, big thank you. I'll talk to you very, very soon. Make sure to subscribe if you're brand new to Keep Productive YouTube channel, and make sure to take full advantage of all of the Notion videos we have here. Anyway, guys, a big thank you. See you very soon. Cheers, everyone. Bye.